Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of cyBARR Chats, HITRUST Edition. Today, we're joined by Senior HITRUST Consultant and ISO Lead Auditor, Steve Ryan, to discuss how to leverage the HITRUST CSF platform to help your organization achieve other important compliance frameworks, namely ISO 27001. So, Steve, let's get started. My first question for you, could you just explain the differences between HITRUST and ISO requirements? And why might an organization decide to pursue both?
Absolutely, Claire. Thanks for having me back again. So, ISO 27001 is an international standard that helps organizations establish, implement, and maintain an information security management system. The HITRUST Common Security Framework, or commonly known as the CSF, is a set of prescriptive controls that cover a number of industry standards, including ISO 27001. In fact, ISO 27001 is part of the foundation that HITRUST was built upon, which is why HITRUST CSF can help satisfy the requirements of ISO. An organization might choose to pursue both for a number of reasons, such as customer requirements, increased security over their ISMS, as well as setting themselves up as a differentiator in the market. These are two of the most challenging, but also most sought after information security certifications an organization can receive. And the fact that HITRUST gives you such an upper hand in achieving both is truly a game changer.
Got it. That's great. So could you describe in a little more detail how the MyCSF platform helps with mapping security controls to ISO requirements?
Of course, an external assessor can conduct multiple audits at once, so the auditor can complete all the necessary tasks and data collection processes for both HITRUST and ISO at the same time. If an organization has already achieved an HITRUST certification, it's extremely easy to map the controls already in place to ISO, especially when the assessment data already exists and is immediately available in the MyCSF portal. This means that all the heavy lifting is already taken care of, and the organization only needs to exert a very small amount of effort, saving time, resources, and money.
Awesome. So you've already started to touch on this a little bit, but what are some of the benefits of leveraging HITRUST and the MyCSF platform to achieve an ISO 27001 certification?
Yeah, so there's a lot of value in leveraging the MyCSF tool to help achieve the ISO certification, particularly by helping organizations avoid potential nonconformities, and as I mentioned above, save some time, resources, and of course, money. If there are gaps, the HITRUST CSF can serve as a guide on how to mitigate those gaps and improve your overall security posture. Your HITRUST external assessor can provide guidance on how to mitigate those gaps, which is much different than the approach of ISO auditors, which can also help avoid potential nonconformities. When all the information and data needed for an ISO audit is readily available in the MyCSF platform, the organization's compliance team doesn't need to go through redundant activities and conversations, which again, as we all know, is saving an enormous amount of time and resources.
Awesome. Thank you. And my next question for you is, how does HITRUST CSF really serve as a risk assessment framework for organizations that are going to undergo audit assessments like ISO?
Mhm. Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, ISO auditors aren't allowed to provide guidance on exactly how to fix issues or mitigate those gaps. So if your organization has HITRUST in place, your external assessor can help with that expert guidance and feedback on how to close and identify gaps ahead of time there.
Awesome. Well, that kind of brings me to my next question. Everything, sounds great so far, but what if any challenges are presented with leveraging CSF for ISO?
Yeah, so frankly, Claire, leveraging the CSF for ISO removes about 99% of the challenges it takes to achieve the ISO 27001 certification. This again is mainly because HITRUST was built off of the ISO 27001. So inherently, all the control requirements for ISO are already built in and mapped within the CSF.
That's great. So now that we've discussed ISO, are there any additional compliance frameworks that you could foresee being more easily achievable with HITRUST My CSF?
Absolutely. So in addition to ISO 27001, a HITRUST certification can help satisfy the requirements of other assessments such as SOC 2, PCI, FedRAMP, and many, many more. With SOC 2, for example, the AICPA's trust services criteria align with the CSF criteria, which allows us to actually issue a SOC 2 plus HITRUST in a collaborative reporting model.
That's great. Well, that brings me to my last question, Steve. Is there anything else you'd like to mention on this topic?
Yeah, so just last thing here, leveraging the HITRUST CSF to achieve the ISO certification is truly a game changer for organizations. This allows for an audit once, report on many approach, which really reduces the amount of resources organizations are required to delegate to achieving an ISO 27001 certification. I don't really see any reasons why organizations that are already going through or have gone through an HITRUST validation shouldn't also try to go through the ISO certification process as well.
Well, that's great. That was my last question. So, Steve, thank you so much for providing your expertise on how to leverage HITRUST to achieve an ISO 27001 certification. This is certain to help some of our clients. And to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing everyone next time on cyBARR Chats.
Thanks for having me, Claire.